Scott!
Hi!
What is the most replayable game of all time?
Also known as which video game do we play the most and we want to talk about, which is, the only answer is Metal Gear Solid. On the PlayStation 1 now, I played Metal Gear Solid, honestly, about 24 times through.
Can't be.
Child me was just a ridiculous fan of that game. I look forward to it in the run-up to it. I watched all the magazine previews for it. I followed every single word of everything that was written about it beforehand. And when it came out, it blew my tiny little mind. Nothing had ever been that cinematic. Nothing had ever really captured Hollywood and then gone better before. And I absolutely loved it. So I just lived on that game over and over again. I would run downstairs and tell my parents I just finished it again. And they were always like, what are you talking? What is this?
Well done, sir.
What's a Metal Gear Solid? But I just went through it over and over again. Got all those custom skins. You get the tuxedo for Snake. You get the red version of Grey Fox. Grey Fox. You get all that stuff. So I'm going with Metal Gear Solid. There's never been a game that I've just sat on and just looped over and over and over again to just live inside it as much as possible as that game. Best game of all time.
When you replay that game, are
Yes.
you watching all the cutscenes still?
Back then I did.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it. I mean, yeah,
You
that
can't
was
skip the cutscenes.
No, you've got to
cutscenes.
you got to sit through the whole thing. So I would just, that was my entire life. I mean, how old was I then? Like 9 or something?
Yeah.
It was a beautiful time. Beautiful.
One of the franchises that I put the most amount of time into over the course of my life is Pokemon, thousands of hours probably, and I'm one of those people that will pick up a new Pokemon game on day one, regardless of what's going on and what the public perception is. Scarlet and Violet, very visibly flawed. I know I'm not alone though, because its sales numbers were crazy, right? People just love Pokemon. People love the little critters. People love building the teams of the little critters more than anything else. Swapping stuff out, being like, this is interesting, what's this? I'm going to try this out, I don't like it, I like this better, so on and so forth. Casually, but also professionally, people build Pokemon teams for tournaments. You can build themed teams. I have a moth and butterfly team that I'm waiting to get back to. People build teams that are just like one specific type. The variation there and the things you can do with building a 6 Pokemon team is really cool, especially because, you know, with over 1,000 Pokemon now, the number of possible combinations must be so big that your head would explode if you understood it. If I had to pick a specific pair of Pokemon games though, I'd probably go Ruby and Sapphire. Because unlike Gold and Silver, I don't think there was any returning Pokemon this time around, not on the sort of main path of the game. So lots of new Pokemon to discover, to try out, but also the first time that the series introduced like version exclusive evil teams. I think it might be, is it the only time where you could play Sapphire and fight Team Aqua, and then you would play Ruby and fight Team Magma, which is pretty cool as well. But also on a personal level, this was the era of discovering ROM hacks for me, like randomizers and that kind of thing. There's no better franchise for a randomizer than Pokemon. If you think about that previous number, this is even greater because the stuff you can do with a randomizer is just kooky. So yeah, it just keeps you coming back. On top of the fact that people make their own Pokemon games based on, especially the GBA era, was just, there was so much stuff out there on the internet, ROM hacks with new regions with their own Pokemon, and ROM hacks where the Pokemon were like needlessly violent. There was just, it was like a whole genre in and of itself. So Ruby and Sapphire, love those games, vanilla, but also just the Game Boy Advance era of Pokemon in general probably stole hundreds of hours from me.
For me, a replayable game is generally something that's quite lean and can be maybe even just completed in a couple of sittings. Games that I do replay quite a lot might be like really linear shooters or whatever, and they're not good, but you can get through them quickly. But actually, if it's going to be a game that I replay a lot and I like, it's only Monkey Island 2 LeChuck's Revenge.
Hey! It was in plain sight the whole time.
Oh, yes, it was. And that's a game that I do play quite regularly. I can always come back to it. And the thing that I love, there's so much that I love about Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge. It's even though that's a very linear game with a very strict set of conditions for what you've got to do to get through all the puzzles. I've played it so many times and I can still get myself stuck and have to sort of rediscover how I get through those puzzles because it's so incredibly dense. But even beyond that, there's things I'll come across, a million playthroughs in. For example, there's one that really made me laugh. One of the most recent times I played it, there's a point in this game where you can, there's a bucket hanging on a little hook early on Scab Island, right? And sitting above it is these 3 men of low moral fibre, pirates, and they're asleep.
Nice.
And you go to get the bucket because you need it, and the guy, one of them, wakes up and he goes, "Hey, don't touch that." So you say, to get the bucket, you say, "Sorry, can I have this bucket?" And he says no, and you're like, please? No. Pretty please? No. Pretty please with sugar on top? And this goes on for a really long time, adding and adding and adding to the pile up on the please. And eventually the guy's like, oh, all right, fine, you can have it. There's this big, long, stupid conversation. And it may have only been the last time I played it. You can go pick up that bucket and the guy says, hey, don't touch that. But if you say, you can say, sorry, is this your bucket? And he goes, no. So Guybrush just goes, oh, so you don't mind if I take it? And he's like, no, go ahead. It's just incredible. Really made me laugh. And that's it. I'd always gone for the other conversation option, and then years and years later found that again. And I just think that really reflects its humour as well. I think it's got a really warm tone to it. It's a game that makes you feel just really good as you play it. It's full of actual jokes, not quips. And it's got physical humour, it's got a lot of wit, and it's just this masterfully crafted world with all these really resoundingly fun characters and incredibly dense puzzles, some of which I will throw up on the screen because they take too long to explain.
I'm so shocked to see anyone pick, a puzzle game, even if it does have as much humour and as much storytelling prowess as Monkey Island.
Well, that's because it's a narrative puzzle game. It's not it's not like a block. It's not like a slide and block puzzle game, is it? It's a put the key in the keyhole type of puzzle. Original Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge. It's wonderful. Bit of a depressing ending, but it's great.
Dan Durkin, what is the most replayable game of all time? Or, your most replayed game of all time?
So as you can probably guess, if you've seen any videos of me on the channel, Resident Evil 4, this game is sheer perfection to me. I've completed it over 120 times.
Wow!
Yeah, it's like, there was a point where this game was my comfort game, and I would just play it over and over and over. Like,
wow.
There's 500 different ways you could play it. You could do single gun only runs, you could do no heals, and it's just incredible. And then you've got like the mercenaries on top of that as well. Like, there's so much to do. And on top of that, on PC, you've got all the mods like the randomizers and stuff like that, and it's just perfect, right? And it was between this and Pokemon. I think Sai's picking Pokemon, so I was like, I can have Resident Evil. And
you can always have Resident Evil.
Yeah. I played the remake, and I very much enjoyed the remake, but it's got nothing on the original. The original is just like perfection. Like, to me, it's just so good.
Dan, do you think if you played the remake 120 times, you might think it's as good, or no?
Nah,
just
you can't beat the charm of the original. Like, it's just incredible.
Dan, indulge me.
Go on.
You played it 120 times. How many different platforms have you played it on, or is it just PC?
Every single one.
Every platform.
No joke.
Yeah.
GameCube, 360,
Have you played it on the
PS4. No, I haven't. I've played the iOS version.
Oh,
I've played the iOS version on the Wii as well, where you get to do the little thing like that. Yeah, Resident Evil 4. You can't beat it.
He's mad. Like, we might as well just go home now.
That's it.
Alright, geezers, it's Jules here. The thing is, when it comes to the most replayable game of all time, I assumed you said it with me, kids, the true answer, the only answer, is Fallout New Vegas. Why is that? Well, you can play it any way you want. You could be some scoundrel of the wasteland, you can be a benevolent leader of the future of humanity, or you could even try and side with some aliens before they turn on you and start probing places that should never be probed. But here is the thing, you can also mod this game so much that it becomes an absolute cavalcade of chaos. Just check out my Live and Let's Dice ones where I did a 40k mod. That's right, Warhammer 40k, Fallout New Vegas. It's the best. It's the beezus kneezus, Jesus. Bye.
Alright then, Josh. What is the most replayable game of all time?
Well, here's the thing, Joe Johnson. I'm cursed from going last because Dan said Resident Evil 4, which would have been my pick.
Hey!
Jules has said Fallout New Vegas, which would have been my second pick.
I've said Monkey Island 2.
You said Monkey Island 2, which would have been my third pick, so my fourth pick is going to have to be Dark Souls. But just because it's fourth doesn't mean it is undeserving of this title, because Dark Souls 1, especially, is a world.
Yes.
And I'm going to avoid looking into the eye line of Dan Durkin over there,
It's
the
all right,
Elden
you
Ring
look at me
hater.
because I'm with you on this.
Absolutely. Dark Souls has a world that I love living in. And you know, a lot of my favorite games, Red Dead Redemption 2, Fallout New Vegas, Resident Evil 4, create worlds that I don't want to leave. I just like the atmosphere of it. I like the layout of it. I love the art style. I love everything that's going on. In Dark Souls, whether I'm looking around the tops of Lordran or I'm going right down into Blight Town or even further into the, you know, Ash Lake or whatever, I like going on that journey. And although you can say some things about Dark Souls that you can say about a bunch of other games that we've talked about here, you know, the customization in the builds, the amount of different ways you can play, the speed runs, skipping certain areas entirely, I play as Dark Souls the same way every time I play it. I play it with the same build, the same kind of character, more or less the same character design.
I do that for every
Because
game.
the purity of that experience to me just cannot be beaten, and I love the other Souls games, but I don't return to them, maybe with the exception of Bloodborne, as much as I do Dark Souls, because there's something about the simplicity of that world and the appeal of how dead that world is combined with the secrets.
I remember the first time I booted up Dark Souls and was really struck by its world and thought, wow, experience.
Yes.
So I get you.
I think ever since that, I've been trying to chase that feeling of this is incredible, and I got it with Elden Ring. Don't look at me, Dan. But again, just to finish this off, going back to something Dan said about Resi 4 being his comfort game, Dark Souls is kind of my comfort game, and I think a lot of people kind of share that same mentality. I never understood, really, the desire to play a game over and over and over again, because I thought, you know, when you've played it once or a couple of times, you get your fill. And then I played Dark Souls, and I couldn't stop playing it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Never mind the amount of times I played it, the amount of video essays I've watched on Dark Souls, just because if I don't have time to play it through, I'll watch someone else play it through, because I'm an absolute sucker. I'll learn more about it, as if there's more to learn. It's amazing, and I'll probably play it tonight now. Now I've got the itch for it.
So Josh,
go on.
Could you play Dark Souls blindfolded?
Absolutely not. I'm pretty good, but I'm not that good. I've still not done a level 1 run or anything like that. Like I say, I play it with my nice good armor and my nice good swords every time. Just because I've played it a lot. I never claimed to be good at games. I just claimed to like them.